Right, right. You know, that's funny because when I first moved to South Carolina from
Hmm.
Washington, D.C., that's my home.
Hmm.
I came here and you would be riding, driving by or walking by and people would wave at you.
Yep.
And I would be like, what is wrong with them? What are they doing? Why
Yep.
are they waving? I remember the
Yep.
first time I heard crickets and stuff and I saw dragonflies, it freaked me out.
Yep.
But it's so funny because those urban areas, it brings to mind a song that Bob Marley did called Concrete Jungle. And I guess that's what it will ultimately turn into
Yep.
if this collapse actually happens, because like you said, people are just not prepared. We're not taught how to grow our food, which I think should be in the school system. In fact, I suggested that excuse me, schools should actually teach, elementary schools at least, should start
Yep.
teaching children how to grow food. They should take the
Yep.
property around them and create a garden where they
Yep.
can pick vegetables and stuff for their lunch, and then you wouldn't have to worry about them eating all this plastic stuff. They can
That's
just go
right.
out to the garden and pick, this is what we're having for lunch today, this is what we're having for lunch tomorrow, but they know how to grow their food. So I do want to ask you this, though. You say that there are several people, no, I'm sorry, there are several denial stages that we go through.
Yes.
And
So there's 5 stages of the awakening, and if you're familiar with anybody who's passed in your family, we all go through it. It's a natural process of human, coming to terms with a new reality, and it's based off of Elizabeth Kubler-Ross's 5 stages of grief. So if somebody passes away in your family or a pet, you'll go through these same 5 stages, to varying degrees. There's no skipping around them. You go through them, one way or the other. And it's the exact same process that that you will go through if you're going through an educational process to become aware, and take away the facade that's been brought to you, and that you're able to create a true version of what's going on. You'll go through these same 5 stages. So on a personal level, you'll go through depression. So like right now, I'm telling about the collapse of the dollar, and 25% of European population died the last time that happened, and plagues and riots and all that other stuff. Depression. How could you not feel depressed about this? This
Right.
is not stuff that people are happy to talk about. And then what your audience will do next is say, okay, you know what? I'm going to take this guy on. I'm going to see if he's talking the truth or stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll go through my videos and you'll see some of this stuff, and then you'll realize, man, this guy's right. And maybe go to the other things. And you know what the next stage you're going to have? Anger. You're going to be upset that you played along in this game, that you've exposed yourself to this danger, that you've been
Right.
lied to, that you've probably lost a million opportunities in your life to have done something better. You'll be upset that there's people that actually profit off this paradigm of spreading debt and death throughout the world, and you become angry about that.
Right.
So then the next stage is the most annoying stage of the awakening. It's called bargaining. That's when you burn through all your anger, and now you want to go convert everybody over to what you see. So you'll ruin Christmas parties and birthday parties talking about the Federal Reserve and 9/11 and wars and petrodollars and all this other stuff, and you'll turn all your friends away that are in denial, and they'll now start thinking that you're loony, even though you're speaking complete truth and that you're completely logical. Then the next stage happens. That's depression. Now you've burned through your anger. You've burned through all your relationships. You see that the problem's way too big, and nothing changes, no one listens, and no one cares, and they're all going to get screwed, and you know the answer, and then you can become depressed.
Right.
And the final stage is acceptance. And acceptance is the stage where you finally say, hey, this is what's coming. I'm going to prepare as best as I can. And once I see that there's going to be the largest, greatest transfer of wealth on the other end of this, and then I can position myself ahead of time, so I'll be a spectator to this tragic event, but I will not be a participant or a victim of it.
Right.
This is actually something that can start looking forward to, especially when you realize that what are we holding on to? We're holding on to 25%, obesity records. It's probably even higher than that. And 27 million that are on antidepressants, and 46 million on food stamps, and multiple wars and multiple debts, and the bad guy bankers are getting bailed out, and the homeowners are getting screwed, and this whole system's messed up, and it's going to come to an end.
Right.
And the net result is we're going to have a decentralized, slower, more responsible way of life that's going to come out of the other end of this.
Well,
now, what you'll go through personally, humanity has to go through. So right now, everybody's in denial. I mean, except for your listeners and my listeners. But 98, 99, 95% of humanity is in denial because they have never been face-to-face with the consequences of these actions, of actively or passively supporting this debt and death paradigm.
That's right.
When this system collapses, that's when we're at the anger stage, and that's what I'm most, focused on right now because I feel it's coming sooner. And that's when all of humanity, while, one person will get upset when they learn the truth. Can you imagine all of humanity learning the truth at the same time? And, oh, by the way, there's no TV, there's no food, there's no electricity, there's no hope, there's crime. If people are just going to lose their minds. And it's all... Go ahead.
No, I was going to say it's funny because, just going over the 5 stages again, depression, anger, bargaining, depression. Well, no, the first one is denial. I'm sorry. Denial, anger,
bargaining, depression, and acceptance.
And I think that I'm at the level of acceptance because
no,
initially...
you're not. I'll tell you why, because I've had so many people who go through this. And they say, I'm back and forth. Sometimes I feel like I want to go out and do this. Like if you were truly at acceptance, you wouldn't be doing any more research. You'd be taking action. You probably wouldn't even have this radio show. It's like,
I just totally unplug.
Yeah, because at that point you realize that, and I'm coming to that point. That, like even in my journey. I've been accepting this a long time, but the reality is I'm still trying to wake people up, and the reality is I can't. People are unfortunately going to have to learn this lesson the hard way, and I've spent a ton of time and effort. I mean, I've dedicated so much time to waking people up, but even through my tremendous, heroic efforts to doing this, there's still only a few thousand people I've been able to successfully wake up, or at least set on this path. But the reality is that this anger phase is coming, and we really need to start taking productive action to get ready for it.
Where would you say we are then, Chris? Because you know what? At first, I was going to say this. I have a lot of friends. Like I told you, I started purchasing silver in 2006. And I have a lot of friends. I mean, they're digging holes in the ground. They're putting food in containers and putting them in the ground and all this other stuff. And they were like, Tazima, you got to be prepared. And I'd be like, dude, I'm not living under the ground. I don't care what's going to happen. And then finally it started seeping in like, well, a friend of mine, as a matter of fact, said to me, think of it this way. If you start stocking food just in case, and if you invest in silver and gold just in case, if nothing happens at the worst case scenario, you'll have a bunch of food. You may not have to spend money at the grocery store. You'll have silver and gold that's only going up, so you haven't lost anything. But what if something does happen, then you're prepared.
That's right.
And that's when I started saying, okay, that makes sense to me. So I started doing things. So you're saying, though, what phase are you and I in then if we're not in acceptance? Because I'm not depressed about it.
I would probably say that you're a little bit in the bargaining phase. I mean, I've only spoken to you for, 2 hours maybe. And in this format, I wouldn't know. But to me, if you were in the acceptance stage, you would have no money in the stock market. You would have no money in your bank. You would have had moved out of any urban area that you're in. You would have, started your own, local community of like-minded individuals. You would have, you'd be happy talking about this with friends because you can talk about the positive aspects of this collapse.
Okay.
And that there are a lot of things. So, I like to think that I'm at the total acceptance stage, but quite honestly, I'm not fully detached. While I have no money in the stock market, I have very little in the bank, I'm still living, I still go to Target, I still go to Walmart. Yes. I am not growing all of my own food.
Okay.
So,
So we're in the same place. And you know what? That's one of the things that I like about you, Chris, is that you're forthright. So you're not telling people, listen, I have totally unplugged and blah, blah, blah. You're saying, look, I'm the one who's, putting this information out there. And yet I'm still subjected to a lot of the stuff that we've been programmed to do, like shopping at Target or Walmart,
Yep.
or I'm not growing all of my
paying
food.
your taxes,
Yeah,
I pay on time and early. I mean, because I don't want the hassle. I don't want the trouble.
Well,
but I do everything that I can to it's a barter to work outside the paradigm to establish relationships. Because the reality is, if we ever got to a place where we don't really need money. I mean, if you have a good group of people, and how many times you're like this shed I'm looking at. I built a shed in the backyard. I'm not that handy. I know how to use a hammer and a screw and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But my friend came over, and he spent his whole weekend. He works a 9-to-5 job. Spent his whole weekend over here in 80-degree weather. Slapped this thing up with me and put it together. And if I had to pay somebody to do it, I'd probably get charged $1,000 or something like that.
Right.
And between friends, between neighbors, it was a good time to spend with them. And he didn't charge me anything. And you know what? I'll end up helping him out down the road and stuff like that.